Ever wondered to yourself, what does a hiring manager think of my resume? In this video, I break down every inch of a viewer's resume so that you can better plan your path into cybersecurity and, curate a job getting resume. Stay tuned until the end, where I curate his resume into an even minimal form that's more obtainable for you, and it describes a candidate that I would love to interview today. Bonus number 2, at the end, I will share a site where we are actively hiring entry level SOC analysts that require zero experience. We're going to review a resume today. This will be the longer version of the short I post on this. So the short will be out soon and then this will follow. But I want to do a really long explanation for Dr. Ketch's resume because this is a really good example of what type of resume is going to get you looked at as an individual. So I wanted to take some more time. So thanks, first of all, Dodger Catch 9215. Thank you for commenting. And thank you for sending your resume over. This is a really good example for folks to follow. A lot of really good stuff. Of course, there's always room for improvement. Overall, a really, really good resume. So let's start at the top where he does the basic stuff, right? We have the name, the name of the role at the top, his name, which I just replaced with this, and then his phone and address. Yeah, pretty standard stuff there. Down here in the professional summary, this is pretty solid, right? It could be strengthened, I would say, a little bit more. But overall, he put some really cool key elements here. Aspiring SOC analyst. So, boom, he's telling us what he wants to be. And he tells us what he's been doing to get there. So, hands on, in guided cybersecurity labs, try hack me, vulnerability management fundamentals, networking, cloud fundamentals, SIM exposure, working knowledge of Python. Boom, a lot of stuff. And what we expect is that he's going to prove that he's been doing this. And he does. Spoiler alert. And then he kind of mentions some of the stuff that he's been doing. So proven transferable skills in communication, triage, documentation, and escalation of events in a 911 environment. So this is 911 as in the place you call when there's an emergency. That's a pretty tough one to call out and show transference. But it's true. One of my favorite people I worked with in Tampa came from a 911 environment, and he was great. Call out. Hi, Jason. So cool. Good. He's trying to make that connection to help people see he's good under stress, all those things. So what he did here was call out the Security Plus Certified because that's the stronger cybersecurity certification out of all of these, right? So he just called that out and said he's actively pursuing a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity with a focus on threat detection and incident response. So the last sentence here, he's wrapping everything together and saying, here's my big pitch here. So good job. I like that approach. Now let's look at his proof, right? So this is, hey, I'm trying to catch Mike's eye to get him to look at the rest of the resume. Now I have to prove what I told him. So let's take a peek. So just based off the summary, right? I want to see that he's been doing a ton of extra work, that he has some college stuff in there as well. And then he's kind of met the expectations he set at this point. So let's see if he can do that. All right, first one, boom. He's got the CompTIA trifecta. I think that's what the cool people call it, right? So he has the A+, the Net+, and the Security Plus. Just so everyone knows, for cybersecurity roles out there, these two don't mean a ton. Security Plus means a lot, but these two don't. I know a lot of college programs are including them, but they don't mean a lot to cybersecurity roles. However, here's a caveat. They add a little bit, but for some people who don't have the ability or don't have in their locality a bunch of cybersecurity jobs, they're probably going to have to move from a desktop support or desktop admin type role into cybersecurity, and these are going to set you up for that path if you need to take it. So if you don't have to do them, don't. But if you don't have as many job opportunities in your area, you're not willing to move, you're going to have to work your way up, and this would allow you to do that. There's not infinitely, there's a lot more probably admin, desktop support type roles out there than cybersecurity roles. and they're also closer to that entry level point than cybersecurity roles. So good entry point. All right. I don't know a ton about these Azure courses, but these are pretty good, right? They're not maybe directly applicable to cybersecurity, right? But they do teach you a lot. And the key here, I would say that a lot of employers are looking at, and that I find lacking in a lot of analysts that I have, is cloud knowledge specifically. So these are Azure focused. Uh, and with those, I assume, and again, I don't know a ton about these certifications, but I'm assuming you're learning about Azure, learning about the different types of log sources, potentially the different types of services available in Azure. So these are probably pretty good. They probably add a checkbox of, hey, we need more people with cloud because everything's in the cloud now. This helps there. So just a call out there, maybe not super directly applicable, but people do like to see cloud focused certifications or cloud focused studies in these resumes. Now, the next one, this is a good one. I highly encourage folks to get something like this on your resume if you have time. It's not a hard requirement, but this is something I'd recommend if you have time. Now, the reason I say that is Splunk shops aren't a majority of the shops out there. So Splunk is a SIM, if you don't know, and this is where you're going to spend most of your time as an analyst. But there are a ton of other SIMs out there. You have Splunk, you have Elastic is another big one. So you also have QRadar out there. You also have Logarithm, and there's a bunch of other ones out there. This is just one of the many. Even though you have this and there aren't a ton or a majority of the shops aren't Splunk shops, this does show that you have the fundamentals, you understand how SIMs work. And I would say this is probably one of the more complex SIMs out there. But most of them generally work the same, and you have a really good starting point for picking up another SIM. So it's a good little bonus on that resume if you do have it. If you're doing the SOC level 1 and 2 courses in Try Hack Me, you're going to get a lot of this experience as well. I believe they cover Splunk and Elastic. So they're good. I think the Splunk one is also free. All right, so let's check out some of the other ones. I don't know what's included in this one, but it's a good little add to the resume, and it helps them better understand how vulnerabilities work, which a lot of people don't necessarily understand that piece. So it's not a huge value add, but it is pretty interesting. It fills in some knowledge gaps for folks as well. The next one, Google cybersecurity certification. So this kind of, just based on reading it, and I haven't done this one, it helps you get ready for the Security Plus. So this is a good certification, and they do have quite a bit of additional things in here that the Security Plus doesn't have. So this is a good certification. I do like to see this one. Not to say you have to have it. There are a ton of other ones that I say would be better. It's a good certification. There is some overlap, but it's not an exact duplication of Security Plus. So it's showing, hey, I am learning additional bits of information here that I didn't have before. So good stuff. Here's my favorite section, right? I am a strong believer of Try Hack Me and Hack the Box Labs. This is the type of stuff I want to see on people's resumes. And I would also like to see him hit SOC level 2 and add that on here. If you don't have this stuff, you need to have it on your resume. Try Hack Me and Hack the Box Labs are about the only way you're going to get as close to real life experience at all, right? Unless you build it out yourself. This is the only way you're going to get that experience. I will tell you, after training lots and lots of people, you are going to be really hard to teach if you don't have at least a little bit of experience touching these technologies. So do it. This, not particularly useful. He can get rid of this one. Sure, we use Excel to some degree, but not that useful. But congrats anyways, right? For this one, I would love to see him call more, like go in detail. What all types of self-directed training did you do? These by themselves look pretty good. So I assume there's some other ones as well. And for me personally, I like to see all the major milestones of accomplishments, including all the individual trainings, because I love to see this kind of stuff. I like to look at a resume and say, this person cares, this person gives a crap, and they're really invested in a cybersecurity career. I love seeing that. It's very inspiring for me, hiring people like this. So really good stuff. call it out, and you'll make people like me very excited. So it's really good stuff here. All right, the in progress stuff. These I want to say aren't that great. So if Dodger Catch is doing these because he thinks it's going to have a big impact, they're not. They're not going to have hardly any impact on his cybersecurity resume. Now, if he's looking to be an IT admin or a network admin, these would be great, and they both individually approach that. So this would be an IT admin, so a Linux admin certification. This is for a network admin certification. So he's kind of diversifying his prospects here, which I get. A lot of people do that, but what ends up happening is you shortchange yourself, right? You could instead be spending that time on cybersecurity specific, very specific cybersecurity stuff, and building that cybersecurity resume much better with that time instead of divesting it into these. So I would definitely recommend, if you're doing this on your own, shift to cybersecurity stuff. If you're not, then do it, because if school's already, if you have a school course on this, or it's just part of the degree program, cool, do it. It's not going to hurt you. It's going to add more options. But we're all very time sensitive for the most part, in terms of we only have so much time to study, and we want to get into the field as soon as possible. So we do have to be very selective about where we put that time. So again, I would choose stuff like, you could do Blue Team Level 1. You could even do a junior pen test certification like EJPT or any of the TCM courses. Really pick one or two, add them here. It's going to make you a stronger cybersecurity candidate than these. All right, this project. So let's talk about projects. So to me, when I read this as a hiring manager, this isn't a great project. It looks like you just followed a guide to set up a honeypot, and you just looked at a few things and that was it. What I'd like to see is it was a long-term thing, right? You did the honeypot. Tell me, what did you learn? What types of technologies did you do as part of the honeypot? How did you set up the operating system? How did you do all this? What was your goal of this setup? What did you learn from the credentials that you logged or the timestamps? Tell me about the learning outcomes. You don't do that well. And if you do any project, you really want to articulate those learning outcomes as well as possible. Projects are really hard. People are just following guides and calling them projects. Yeah, they kind of are projects, but think about it this way, right? If you are like putting an IKEA furniture set together, right? That is different than building it from scratch, right? Getting the raw wood, putting it together, and building the same thing. Same outcome, roughly, right? We have a piece of furniture, but the process is different, and you learned and showed your abilities quite differently. One was, all I got to do is read these directions, put a few screws in, nice and easy. The other one, I had to do a lot of thinking, had to do a lot of planning, a lot of prep, all these things. One shows way more learning outcome than the other. And that's kind of what I see with this, right? If we just follow directions, we're not really learning a ton. We're not demonstrating a ton of knowledge. If we start veering off and adding to it and doing some cool stuff, then we can demonstrate that to a potential employer. All right, so enough about projects here. Technical skills, good call out here. Some decent stuff. All very true. I'm kind of split between whether or not we want to add this further at the top. So like right below the professional summary, it could probably go there. And I would add more to this because you have a lot more up here that you could talk to. So something to consider. Again, the technical skills is kind of an abbreviation of what you have done, but it also helps fill in the keywords that these software suites are looking for the recruiters and whatnot. So I would add more to it, more verbiage, more keywords. And I like how he conveyed his understanding of that area, right? He's not saying he's an expert. He's not saying he's super experienced. He's kind of setting the expectation. I have a basic understanding. I've seen so many resumes in the past month where people seriously overstate their competency, and it's very frustrating for me, which means it's bad for you as a candidate. If I'm frustrated that you're misrepresenting yourself, that's bad. It puts a bad taste in my mouth in you as a candidate from the start. So be very, very careful. They did a good job of setting expectations here. This last part here, so the professional experience they put at the very bottom. So this is something I always recommend, right? Especially if you don't have any IT or any experience whatsoever related to cybersecurity, put it at the bottom. Because if we're talking about like bluff style resumes, bottom line up front, you want to put the most important things up, the least important things at the bottom, because you want to catch my attention and keep it, just like a reader if you're reading a newspaper, right? So good job there. He also didn't take up a lot of space with it, and he tried his best as possible to give a little bit of details and link them to the job he's looking for. And the final piece here, education. This is something I'd move up. I definitely do it above his experience because this is applicable. So we want to bring it up and put it probably right here, maybe, or even above this, even above certifications and training, perhaps. And simply because one of the hard lines in the sand that organizations have, such as mine, is that we have to have 4-year degrees if there are no experience, right? So for him, he would fall into that. He doesn't have experience, so we need a 4-year degree or a degree. So if they don't have a degree, I'm not looking at the rest of his resume, and our recruiters are probably scanning for that 4-year degree. So in this case, he doesn't have one, but he's expected to have one in 2027. But he does have an associate's. This may be something you would consider moving up. I would definitely move it up. So that is kind of a in-depth rundown of his resume. Now the question is, would Mike hire this guy? It depends on how they do on the interview. However, I would say if I had a SOC internship position, which is what he wrote this for, I would definitely interview him. If Dodger Catch had a bachelor's degree, I would also interview him based on this resume. If he had a bachelor's degree, that is the only thing preventing him from being interviewed by me right now, because I would ask him, I would message, hey, would you like to interview for my role? You'd have to move to one of the available locations, but his resume looks great. It is definitely one of the candidates I would most assuredly interview. So if you're looking for a litmus test of what I would interview, this is it. Now, let me clean up his resume a little bit in terms of what the bare minimum would be for me to interview. Take this out. Just this, I would interview. So getting an interview doesn't have to be as hard as some people think. Some of it takes just finding someone to believe in you, and that's all you need. Because sometimes the software that people use suck in recruiting. So if you have a resume that looks kind of like this, reach out to me. If you're willing to move, and I'm going to do a call out to my employer, Adapt Forward, go check out adaptforward.com. If you are willing to move to any of those positions, you have at least a bachelor's degree, and you have a 8570 compliance certification, so Sec Plus does this for you, reach out, please. And I'd be happy to give you a chance to see if you can interview. All right, with that, we're going to close out this video. Send over your resume. My email address will be in the link to this, but it's also on my YouTube account. I'll do short videos for you. I won't do long videos like this for all of them, but I will do a short video for as many as I can, and we'll start releasing them regularly. Like, share, subscribe, all those things so that I can better serve you and guide you into the world of cybersecurity. Have a good day. We'll see you around.